Welcome back, everyone. Let's jump right into today's explainer. We're going to completely untangle the incredibly rapid military developments that have just unfolded between the United States and Iran. Now, we are looking strictly at the reported facts and data from the ground to understand exactly what happened, where it happened, and the geopolitical strategies driving both sides. We've pulled some of the best images to really set the scene for you, so we can break down this highly complex, fast-moving situation without any spin.
Okay, let's dive into this, because the sheer scale of these military strikes over just a 48-hour period is absolutely staggering. We're looking at a massive, rapid kinetic exchange that literally altered the security landscape in the region overnight. 170 targets destroyed in just 2 nights.
So to understand how we got to that enormous number, we really have to look at the timeline. According to the reported data, the precipitating event actually occurred across July 6th and 7th. That's when 3 different vessels passing along the Omani coastline were targeted by Iranian forces. This initial spark over maritime transit instantly triggered back-to-back nights of heavy, sustained retaliation from the U.S. military, which fundamentally accelerated the whole timeline of the conflict. Let's move to Section 1, the spark and the strikes, and see exactly how this builds. Over the course of July 7th and 8th, the U.S. military systematically targeted critical Iranian infrastructure. And I mean, this wasn't just a single facility. This was a sweeping campaign. They completely dismantled coastal radar and surveillance assets, command and control networks, and anti-ship missile capabilities. But crucially, they didn't just hit military hardware. They actually took out vital domestic transportation nodes too, including bridges and rail lines in northeastern Iran that are used for weapons transport, along with dozens of small Iranian military boats. And I want to pause on this number right here. 90. After taking out 80 targets on the first night, U.S. forces neutralized an additional 90 Iranian military targets on the second night alone. The rhythm and volume of these strikes, it clearly indicates a massive, highly coordinated military operation aimed at rapidly degrading regional capabilities. Now, the official stance from the U.S. executive branch frames this as a strict policy of disproportionate deterrence. President Trump summarized the strategy regarding the counterstrikes by stating, quote, "Every time they hit us, we'll hit them 20-1. And when they hit, we hit back much harder." That is the stated doctrine driving the U.S. response. But as you'd expect, the kinetic action wasn't one-sided. In response, Iran launched a series of counterstrikes targeting U.S. allies and military installations across the broader region. This included firing on the U.S. Navy's Fifth Fleet in Bahrain, targets in Qatar, and a U.S. Army installation in Kuwait, where, by the way, Kuwaiti officials reported 1 person was hit by debris. The barrage involved 3 ballistic missiles, 1 cruise missile, and 10 hostile drones. Plus, for the first time in this round of fighting, hostile aircraft entered Jordanian airspace, which resulted in Jordan having to intercept 8 missiles. So, we have the timeline and we have the targets. But to really grasp the complexity of this situation, we need to transition to Section 2, conflict geography, and map out the sheer scale of this thing. 950 miles. This is not some localized skirmish. This theater of operations stretches an incredible 950 miles, all the way from the strategic choke point of the Strait of Hormuz, right up to the Iraqi border. And this brilliantly illustrates the massive geographical footprint we're dealing with. If you want to visualize 950 miles of coastline, heavily dotted with military assets, radar installations, and maritime traffic, just picture the exact length of the California coastline. That is the vast, complex expanse where these strikes and counterstrikes are actively unfolding. Shifting from the physical map to the geopolitical one, let's enter Section 3, Oil, Trade, and Leverage, to look at the underlying strategy here. Now, what's really interesting here is how contrasting these strategic objectives are. Former intelligence analysts note that the United States' primary goal is to ensure the Strait of Hormuz remains open for global commerce, while simultaneously maintaining a blockade on Iran's oil exports to choke off that revenue stream. Iran, conversely, aims to disrupt that global trade and drive up oil prices. That's a move that directly impacts energy costs and shipping for everyday consumers all over the world. They're doing this to test the U.S., and crucially, to manufacture leverage ahead of planned negotiations in Islamabad scheduled for July 11th. And this brings us to a critical analytical concept raised by former CIA officials who are observing the conflict: decapitation strikes. Basically, these are targeted military actions specifically aimed at removing the upper echelon leadership of a regime. Analysts point out that while the recent kinetic strikes have successfully destroyed infrastructure, they haven't actually induced a change in the Iranian regime's behavior yet. Because of this, experts suggest that further decapitation strikes remain a very real strategic option on the table if this current deadlock continues. Which naturally transitions us into the final layer of our explainer, Section 4, Threats to Leadership. We're going to see how these escalating military actions are having direct, deeply personal impacts on the leadership of both nations. Over in Iran, the late Ayatollah's massive 6-day funeral recently concluded with a burial in his hometown. Various Iranian notables attended, including a general reportedly marked for death. But the most notable aspect was a major absence. The new supreme leader did not attend. His security staff cited severe security concerns, and there is active, widely reported speculation that he was actually badly disfigured during that very first round of military fighting we discussed earlier.
And, the personal stakes are incredibly high on the American side as well. President Trump has spoken openly to reporters about being directly targeted, stating, quote, "I'm number one on the kill list for Iran. I don't care, I'm doing my job." Now, this isn't just political rhetoric. Intelligence experts point out that these statements are rooted in actual, highly credible threats intercepted by U.S. agencies.
So, the crucial point is how this intelligence directly alters presidential operations on a daily basis. It's a two-step reality. Step 1, the CIA gathers human and signals intelligence identifying these credible threats against the president. Step 2, immediate countermeasures are deployed. And get this, the president's security team made the calculated decision to have him fly on the older model of Air Force One, specifically because that aircraft possesses enhanced security features that the newer model reportedly does not have. It just goes to show how deeply intelligence reporting shapes real-time executive movements.
All of which leaves us looking at a fascinating and incredibly volatile strategic stalemate. We've seen hundreds of targets destroyed, vast geographical expanses contested, and direct threats to top leadership on both sides. So, the ultimate question experts are asking right now is this: will these ongoing kinetic strikes eventually force a change in regime behavior, or has this rapid escalation made a new round of diplomatic negotiations entirely impossible? It is a question that will absolutely define the geopolitical reality of the Middle East in the coming weeks. Thanks for focusing in with us today, and keep questioning the data.